Monterey.
Thank you for remembering. I completely forgot again. Well, welcome everyone to week 5, day 1 of our gap sessions. We're now going to be starting our section on intellectual merit, which is part of the personal statement writing product. So yeah.
Gotta unmute first before I start talking. So we want to do another little warm up today, and this one might be a little tricky, but it doesn't have to be something huge. But the question is, what achievement are you most proud of? And I do think we're a little mean for asking this, Lexi. I'm doing a new journaling thing, and they have little prompts, and I actually had that question yesterday, and I thought about it all day long, and I still didn't have anything.
I think you can also have like funny achievements that you can be proud of, like something that you're proud of, but maybe like other people aren't necessarily like think it's that impressive.
I do try to do that actually in my prompts because it's like a 4-minute daily journal, is what it is. I actually highly recommend it. I'm enjoying it. If anybody likes or wants to get into journaling, highly recommend this one. You can ask me which one it is later. But you do like you list what you're grateful for and what are you proud of, what are you excited about for the day, and all of that. Um, and with the grateful for question, I always do something like I'm very seriously, and then one that's kind of goofy. Like the other day, I said coffee. I'm very grateful for coffee, but it's a little goofier. Takes the edge off. But we already got some great. You're all better at this than me, apparently. Almost done revising my summer abstract to submit for the symposium. Amazing. Yes, be very proud. Starting third year of research. Incredible. Oh my God. You did a TED Talk? Joanna? Oh my God, that's amazing. Bravo. Love that. Yes, I'd be very proud of that. A journal. Oh, like the one I was doing. Yep. Third year in North America for Irish dancing at 16. Wow, that is very cool. Very impressive. I love it. All right. Well, thank you all for sharing your little proud moments. Lexi, do you want to share one?
I also think it's a funny one, but when you're doing like a summer swimming thing, I went a scavenger hunt with my team, and it was like one of those photo ones where you have to like go around town and take photos of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of micromanaged it because I like sectioned the town off. So we would hit each section and get all the things in like the most logical path. So I planned all of it out, and we won because of it. We didn't
Wow.
win anything, but it was cool.
You won your pride. It was
Yes,
brag
exactly.
points. Yeah, for bragging rights.
Mm.
You know, one of my goofy, proudest moments are it's my favorite prank that I ever did. That one was great. I did nothing. I left a sticky note on the guy's car because he was annoying me. And I said, good luck finding it with a little winky face. And I did absolutely nothing. It was beautiful. He freaked out so much. And I'm so very proud of that. Probably should not have said that on a recording, but it's fine.
You gotta reap all the rewards without zero effort. So,
Exactly. He deserved it. And anybody who's listening, he deserved it. Lexi can vouch. Anyway, so yes, please be proud of your moments, your achievements, goofy or serious, big or small. Always make sure to reflect and be proud of those because you should be. We can go on to the next slide now.
yeah. So with that, we're unfortunately gonna have to talk about more serious things now. But there's still good information because we're going to start going over the intellectual merit part of the personal statement review. So we're just going to do a quick review of that, then go into more of the idea of the intellectual merit and what it is. Then we're going to mind map all of our merit stuff. And then, of course, going over our deliverables and some things that we want you to be thinking about with the timeline and all of those things. And then things that you might want to bring for next time or continue working on.
So yeah, so like Lexi said, we'll do a quick review of the personal statement, which is page 9 of the GRFP primer, if you're following along in that. So like we talked about last week, we are jumping around just a little bit on this. We are addressing the second part of it, the relevant background or intellectual merit. Today, this should be about 3/4 of a page. And this is really going to be focused on your scholarly development. So those of you in Swiss, this is a lot of scholarship. But you still want to think about those other pillars still, right? Um, and just a quick, how this fits in when you are working on the entirety of your document, when you put it all together, it's going to be your personal statement, which is about half a page, just a brief intro of yourself, this intellectual merit part. You're going to tie it back into the broader impacts we talked about last week, and then end with the future goals and action plan. And we'll be talking about that next week. So don't worry, when we know this is very accelerated, this is just to give you the information and get you thinking, and you can always come back to these materials later on when you're ready to actually fully address these and write the entire section.
Okay, so we're going to start going into more depth on what intellectual merit actually is. So intellectual merit is similar to scholarship. It's a lot of the benchmark and evidence of all the different actions that you've done. So that being said, you still want to transition it and relate it to all the other things that you've been talking about, like your broader impacts. So some of the things that we want to talk about are opening up with the mission statement. So again, you have to show the originality, significance, impact, and then also the potentially transformative nature of your proposed research, whether that be for current research that you're in or also your research plan that you all will be writing as well with either your potential advisor or with your writing team that you have right now. The other thing that you want to consider, or we have a couple questions that you want to consider when you're writing a strong intellectual merit summary statement or to relate it again with your mission statement. So the main questions are, how does your proposed research suggest or explore creative, original, and potentially transformative concepts? Also, how does it advance knowledge and understanding within your field and across fields? Some other questions are, what are the benefits and impacts of your proposed research within the field and across fields? How will you foster collaborations? And then how will you publish and present your findings within and across disciplines? So as you may see, a lot of these questions hit pretty directly onto the different pillars that we've been talking about. So whether it be impact and like how many benefits and impacts can your research have within and across fields, that's addressed. Other things are like scholarship. So talking about publishing and presenting those findings within and across disciplines also definitely has to be drawn upon when writing your intellectual merit section. And we will give examples and mind mapping examples about all those good things. So if it seems a little daunting right now, don't worry. All these questions also are in the primer as well. So if you ever need a refresher of that, just go to page 9 of the personal statement section of the primer, and all these questions will be there as well.
Yeah, and just reviewing the pillars will help you address these as well. So when we talk about those like other things to consider, those are things to consider when you write. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's okay. Just you can ask us. It's just from the Swiss class, but just questions to be thinking about as you're writing, and that will help you make sure you address these. So now we're gonna do another little Jamboard activity. I will pop that in the chat. As always, please think about your mission statement. This is a really important thing that will help you make sure you have a fluid and impactful statement. So what we're gonna do, oops. So we will be going onto the the third slide, sorry. And we're just going to do the same thing we did last week, which was we're going to take a few minutes and just kind of brain dump different ideas. What might intellectual merit look like? What are examples? You can think of your own examples. You can put a very general thing. Whatever you want to put down, whatever pops into your head, just put it down. Lexi, you want to take 5 minutes?
Yeah, I think 5 minutes. I can set a timer if you want.
I am doing that right now.
Perfect.
Cool. So yeah, just take 5 minutes and jot down any ideas you have. If you aren't entirely sure if something fits, please still jot it down or feel free to ask us. And you can pop it in the chat, do a direct message, unmute, we can talk about it. Now is the best time to ask us these questions and really think about what examples you might have for this. But yeah. I also recommend pulling up your CV.
Yeah, to jump off that CV comment, when we're talking about intellectual merit, a lot of this stuff has to directly relate to your research, whereas broader impacts is more the experiences and workshops and moderations and different curriculum that you have created. Intellectual merit focuses specifically on the research you have done or are currently doing. So when we're talking about all of these transformative concepts, they can apply to you personally and talk about your impact and what you've gained from each of them, but it's really focusing on the research and what your research has contributed to your field of interest. And also, because this is going to be part of your personal statement, so they want to get a holistic view of you, not only of the actions that you've been doing, but also of the research that you have contributed as well.
Thank you, Lexi, for that clarification. Yes, McNair Scholarship. That is an amazing example of intellectual merit. Being in URock, guess what? That counts. Being a scholar, your summer internships, these are all examples of intellectual merit. Honors capstone, amazing. Woo, Goldwater, congrats on that. Is the DS2 lab, is that where you did research? Oh, wait, no. DS2. I know your lab. It's a good lab. Sounds like you have a great mentor there. Yeah, I one of my students as a writing fellow last semester is in your lab. Getting published. Great example. You can also include if something is in preparation. So I actually have this as a line in my example, and we'll give you guys our examples later on. We want you to get some of your own ideas first, before you start looking at ours. But I do have a line in mind saying, I presented this work at et cetera, et cetera. It is also in the process of being published. And just saying that, I don't have to say where, I don't have to say this or that. It's in the process of it. I know my mentor is doing that. That's all I got to say. That is still merit.
For publications too, there's publishing when it's peer reviewed, but there's also technical publications, which you can still include. Sometimes technical publications don't necessarily have to be peer reviewed. It's usually for methods or a report or something like that. but they are still very good and you should absolutely include them on your CV, but you just have to indicate that they are a like technical publication versus a peer-reviewed publication.
Last like 30 seconds. Does anybody have one more they want to add? Oh, researching a topic that can help open avenues for more research or can contribute to medical advances. Yeah. So that brings in a bit of the impact too. So the researching, your research itself is the merit, and then that second part is going to be the impact of your merit. So that's great. Oop, there's the timer. Ah, there we go. I could not turn it off for a second. Yay. Okay, great job, everyone. Sounds like you all have a good idea so far on what intellectual merit looks like. Lexi, do you want to go back to the slide deck?
Emily, did you want to go through your examples? Oh, you're muted.
So sorry. You're right. I thought it was coming up later. Yes. Would you please go back to the Jamboard? Thank you. So sorry, y'all. That was my bad. I'm going to show you an example. So instead of making y'all do this yourself, you can just watch Lexi's. But I'm going to run you through the individual intellectual merit example. And this is something I made. This was my mind map. Well, a part of my mind map. So before we get started on this, I have my mission statement here on the side. So encourage education and appreciation for balanced ecosystems. And then under that, I have different colors representing each of the pillars or future work, just to help me think about, that step. So as I'm starting to think about this, I want to already be putting things kind of in a chronological order, to organize my thoughts and to help me later on see, the progression of everything and what should or shouldn't be included. So again, my intellectual merit. One of my first examples is my Scripps internship. So I did this, it was my first internship before I joined UROC, and it was with the Institute of Oceanography over in San Diego, La Jolla. So while I was there, I did a couple of things. I organized an info booth for public outreach. Oops. Which so I deemed that initiative because it was something that was not there. And I decided to come out and to organize it myself because I thought it was important and I saw an opportunity. I also color that as impact, because it had a significant impact on public outreach. We got more people interested in the internship and the research that we were doing. My scholarship was that I did data analysis with MATLAB and RStudio. So those were two skills I learned while I was there. I also did an oral presentation at the end of the summer. So both of those are examples of scholarship. And then that example of intellectual merit also sparked my interest in marine work. As you all know, I'm an environmental science major. And while they do go hand in hand, my focus was initially on terrestrial work. So that really first got me into marine work and thinking, wow, I might actually want to do this for my career. The second opportunity was becoming a UROC scholar. So as a UROC scholar, I helped organize a grad student panel, which I'm so sorry, goes here. And that also had a lot of impact because it gave the opportunity for my peers to be able to ask questions and learn about the grad school experience. That might be something if any of you are interested in leading, you might be able to do that to get more examples of intellectual merit, as well as impact. It also kind of works a little bit for scholarship as well, because it's something that you're organizing, right? I prep for grad school, that's scholarship, attending the classes, getting prepared. Through my UROC scholar experience, I was a UDAL and Goldwater nominee. So as someone mentioned earlier, you know, being awarded the Goldwater Scholarship, amazing scholarship, or amazing example of future, oh my God, of intellectual merit. My bad. But even if you're just a nominee for something, you're not just anything. That is still an amazing accomplishment, and that is still something you can talk about here. After that, in my timeline, I had another internship, the Coast internship. With that, I started developing, I think this was here, some of my research interest for spiny lobster. I also organized a virtual symposium, which we talked about in Swiss today. I saw a gap for an opportunity I wanted to present, and so I went ahead and just did it. Well, no, I talked to people first. But that gave the opportunity for 12 students to be able to present their work and add something to their CV. I also was able to build field experience with an endangered species, and I created outreach flyers for new regulations. Over here, I'm going to put grad school. That's going to be the end of my full circle, right? Because that's what I want to end up with. I want to go to grad school. So what do I want to do there? Well, I'm thinking about doing fisheries research, right? Which ties in to my research interest of spiny lobster over here. Over here. I just realized you probably can't see my mouse. I want to help to inform regulation, and I want to do a lot of community outreach. If you talk to me, you know that that's usually pretty important to me. So now I have this gap between the Coast internship and grad school. Well, I still have one more year, or I did when I made this. And within that year, I'm going to be working on my capstone. You can add in your capstone as an example of intellectual merit, even if you haven't fully done it yet. And how I incorporated that was I said, well, with my capstone, I am going to build experience in mapping ranges, which is going to prepare me for my grad school project. So this is an example of an intellectual merit mind map. I had way more to it. If you would like to see the full thing, just let me know. Be more than happy to show you. This is one way you might organize this. I just saw the comment that the mute button will always be my enemy, and yes, that is sadly so true. But yeah, okay. That was my example. Does anybody have any questions on anything? Sorry, I kind of talked your ear off for a second.
Okay, well, with that, I'm going to show you another mind map. So if you need another example, this is, I'm not going to go into too much depth of it because Emily already gave us a really great example. So I don't want to talk your ear off even more and just give you not as good information. But so this is my mind map of my intellectual merit stuff that I did for the GRFP. I decided to order it chronologically because I thought that was the best way to show the kind of evolving and getting better and bigger things in terms of research. That's something that we talked about last time in broader impact, but again, it's something that you would preferably like to do in all of your sections. But yeah, so I chose to do it chronologically and show all the different things that way. I also included my legend that allowed me to highlight the different pillars um, in the different sections and different paragraphs that I was talking about, and like specifically what I got from each experience. Um, I'd also like to note that this was not my first draft. So my first drafts did not look this pretty. They were not color coded like this. Um, they were not as organized. They can look pretty crazy when I do them the first time, and that's okay. Um, Also, if you don't like this format, you can do it a different way. This is just the way that I chose to do it. Don't feel like you have to copy it or anything. We just want to give you different options. But yeah, as you can see, I have all of the pillars, but I didn't put in any future goals because I wanted to focus on that for the future goals and actions section of the personal statement. Um, but yeah, okay. And that's all for this info.
I had mine in there to help me organize my thoughts so that I can allude to them and then re-emphasize in the future goals. You do what's best for you. Okay, yeah. So as usual, now we will go into some work time. So you'll have until 4:50 to practice mind mapping your intellectual merits. As always, think about your mission statement. How do you set the stage for what you want to do? Um, Use color, bold stuff, do pictures, emojis, do whatever you want, whatever works best for you, make it yours. Um, if you have any questions, having any problems with anything, please let us know. This is just to get ideas down, and you can always add more, you can always draft more later. So yeah, unless you have any questions. Oh, Lexi, you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm gonna actually change it back to this slide. If that's helpful, just to remind you if you have any like what questions you should be asking yourself when looking at your CV or any of the different things that you've done. I hope this is helpful. If not, I can always change it back to the your turn slide. But if you have any other questions, let us know.
Lexi, I just realized we never really told them how many paragraphs they can expect each section to have. I think with our intellectual merit and broader impacts, each one was what, 3 to 4 paragraphs, depending on what you're talking about.
Yeah, it kind of depends on it depends on how you want to organize it really, because like if you decide to do it chronologically, doing it by almost like every year, in the different years of college that you've been in, that might be the best way. But if you choose to do it another way, it might not be 3 or 4 paragraphs, but
Mhm.
you should, I mean, at the end, it should be 3 to 4, 3/4 a page for each one.
You don't have to list every single thing you've ever done. You really want to just emphasize the most impactful ones. For now, though, I recommend writing down every single thing that relates to this because then you'll see how they relate to each other, and maybe you can get in more than you think because there'll be stepping stones essentially. Um, but just get down every idea you have, and then when you get to drafting, you'll kind of narrow them down and figure out what you actually want to talk about. Start the recording. Awesome. I hope that went well for everyone. Does anyone want to share a small win? Did you make some progress? Did you have some good brainstorming? Did something make a little bit more sense than it did before? Feel free to pop it in the chat. You can unmute. I got some organizing done. I know that's not related to this, but my small win. wrote down all of your research on CV and figuring out which one to use or not to use. Awesome. That is a great place to start, way to start getting organized there. Um, yeah, and sometimes, like I said before, you can kind of, focus on some and then just allude to another or kind of, focus on one and just have it one sentence for the other. But it's good to have them all down to start. Lexi, do you want to go back to the where we left off? Do we have any other small wins? All right. You want to take it away, Lexi?
Yes. Okay. So, again, we made some reminders for things that you all should be working on, different deliverables to kind of keep somewhat in line with that summary time frame that we created for you. But again, working on those emails to potential faculty, broader impact drafting, intellectual merit mind mapping. Of course, those are the things that we want you to work on the most, but if you haven't done things like edit your CV or broader impacts mind mapping, those are also things that you should be thinking about and working on at the same time.
And as always, just keep in mind, now is really the time to be getting those meetings set up with faculty. It's okay if you're still trying to set up the actual meeting, but the emails should be going out very soon here. This should be your most important step right now. But you want to get that going so we can work more on writing coming up because this deadline will come up fast. I don't want to freak you out, but just gotta be honest too. This is not easy, so gotta stay on top of it. If you need help with anything at all, we have our appointment schedule linked there. I'll pop it in the chat right now as well. But please make appointments with us. I don't have a ton of availability this week since I'm out of town, but Lexi is there. And then I think we're both like full availability next week. Um, so yeah, take advantage of us. Like set up meetings, ask questions. We can review work. We can do whatever you need. So just keep that in mind.
Another resource we have for you is that summary timeline that I mentioned previously. These are the priorities that we think each of the different products should take, the expected time, and then when you want to get them finished by. Again, that being said, these are very, very brief descriptions of the products that you need to have done. So even though we say personal statement, that still means you have to write the 4 different sections that make up that personal statement. It's just working on them. Seems like a lot. You kind of have to be working on all of them at the same time. But we believe in you. You can get it done.
Yeah, and don't forget we have that slide deck in the materials folder when we reviewed all of the different products. So if you can't remember something or want more information again, you can check out that slide deck. You can also check out the primer. There's lots of information at your disposal. And if you have any problems finding anything, just come and ask us. Next meeting, we will be reviewing again. Oh, that should be intellectual merit. That is our bad. And we will be doing what we did last week and work on a little bit of storyboarding and getting you set up to draft intellectual merit. If you can work on your mind maps until then, that would be amazing. It's okay if not. We're still going to introduce this to you so you have the information. But the more you can get done ahead of time, the better.
Again, all of these resources that we have every single time. The office hours are just writing sessions, and then all the materials that Emily just talked about. That is all we have for you today. Hopefully you all are ready to be working on drafting the intellectual merit soon. Again, we know that this timeline is pretty quick. But just keep working on all of it and ask us any questions when you have them.
When we say drafting, we're not expecting you to have a full, like, rough draft. We're literally meaning building the templates, building the outlines, just to get you started on it. Don't want to scare anybody. Yeah. Thank you all for coming. Let us know if you need anything.
Thank you.
Thank you. See y'all Thursday.
Bye.
I actually had a question really quick.